What's up, boys? You guys ready to make a new tier list?
I'm not really feeling it today.
Are you upset that George completely violated you in that money match today?
Bedtime Biden, he did nothing of the sort. You're the last one who should be using the word violate. Did you give your daily back rub to the nearest elementary school children?
Whatever, broke boy. Go rob more people to make your money back.
I can't believe I have to do this again. Both of you need to relax. We haven't even started. I think we need to bring it back to the good old days of co-op gaming to settle our differences. I think we should rank the Saints Row games.
Ah, yes, Saints Row, the series that inspired me to run for presidency. Seeing our character start from the bottom to becoming the leader of the world fueled my great and legendary campaign.
You mean inspired you to rob thousands of people with your ghetto-ass university?
The people learned a valuable lesson that day. They learned to manage their own money better.
Whatever. But yeah, I'm diggity down for that. I love the Saints Row games. They weren't just a GTA clone. They made their own imprint on the gaming industry.
Diggity down? But yeah, I think it's a series with its own legacy. Let's get started then. Let's start with the first and probably one of the worst games, Get Out of Hell.
If you can even call it a game, it's a glorified DLC, nothing else.
I kind of liked how you got to play in a different setting, and I liked the wacky storyline.
That's Cap. The ridiculous stories and settings are what killed the series in the first place. They just pumped this game full of side missions and called it a day. The only good thing is the flying.
Let me be clear. Joe, you're off base with this one. I have to agree with Trump. I do like how it revolves around Johnny Gat, one of the best, if not the best character. I'm going to throw this in C tier.
I would agree if Gat was the same Gat from 1 and 2, but he doesn't seem the same. They did tie up some loose end, but it's uninspired. D tier.
I would say B tier, but this belongs at least in C tier at worst.
It's settled. I think we can put this in C tier.
Saints Row 4 is next, another mid-game. This is when the series started to come apart. Like, where the fuck did the aliens come from?
I personally think that the superpowers made this game really fun to play. Being able to jump 20 feet in the air, blast enemies away, and stomp on them from above was awesome. Plus, Shaundi was at her hottest.
For real, Shaundi definitely peaked in this one.
On God. She looked a lot better in 4 than with her dreadlock hippie phase in 2.
Maybe we should do a video game baddies tier list.
Maybe, but let's keep on topic. While I do think the superpowers were fun, it derailed a lot of what Saints Row was, which was a game about coming up on your own and fighting to survive. It just became a Crackdown clone at this point.
I don't even like the superpowers at all. I think it was okay to add some wacky stuff. That was what it was all about in the beginning. But they took it too far and shit the bed on this one. I'm going to say C tier. It was fun, and there were loads of weapons and activities, but it's just not Saints Row.
I think this belongs in B tier. Games are all about fun, and this was fun. Sometimes story and setting can take a back seat.
Are you out of your mind, you sleepy fuck? You just said you liked Gat Out of Hell for the wacky storyline. Story and setting make up an equal portion of the games if they have one. Granted, games like Tetris are goated, but that's because it's simple. Saints Row 4 has a story, and that story sucks more balls than your wife.
Boys, let's not bring family into this. As much as I hate agreeing with Trump this much, I have to say that his analysis on story and setting is spot on. Plus, he did catch you in 4K with the storyline. This belongs in C tier. That's final.
Fine, but I'm not happy about it. I really like the dubstep gun.
I bet you also liked the shitty iFunny memes back then, too.
I do remember the presidential computer constantly having iFunny in the search history.
You looked at the search history?
With your little fiasco about the Turtles mascot the other day, there's nothing I can reveal that would shock anyone. Plus, I'd rather not have that mental image in my head. Moving on, Agents of Mayhem is next.
Is this even a Saints Row game?
No, it's not. I'm surprised you could muster enough mental clarity to come to that conclusion.
You could try to say it's a spin-off, but regardless, this is one of the most lukewarm games I've played. Just going to throw this into D tier.
Agreed.
Finally, a good game in the series, Saints Row 1. This one started it all. An absolute classic, and no one can tell me otherwise. The gameplay was a little rough around the edges, but the way you were inducted into the 3rd Street Saints was awesome, even though people called it a GTA clone. Being able to create your character was something special.
I agree, and this was during the great times of my presidency and when times were a little simpler back then, but nostalgia aside, this game was excellent. Who could forget the multitude of activities like Mayhem, Snatch, Demolition Derby, and the best activity, which could be its own standalone game, insurance fraud.
I'm glad we all get to agree on something positive. There were a few mechanics that I wish were in it, like iron sights and a voice character, but that wasn't feasible back then. Grinding for activities to get more respect was also kind of annoying, but that's just how it was. It aged well, like myself.
I agree with all of that, except that you aged like a cup of milk in the Louisiana sun. I love the gangs, too. They kept it simple but unique. The West Side Rollers were my favorite. But rest in peace, Lynn. My favorite Asian woman besides Asa Akira.
Makes sense that your favorite gang was made up of rich kids from the suburbs.
Who's Asa Akira?
Joe, don't even try. Personally, I really liked Julius. He was badass, even though he betrays us in the end. Plus, he's voiced by Keith David. I mean, all of the main cast were awesome.
I personally liked the Los Carnales. They oozed gangster, and I thought they were memorable.
It's not the Los Carnales, it's just never mind.
I would have deported all of the Los Carnales out of Stillwater.
Sure you would have. So what's the verdict? I want to say high A tier or low S tier.
I think it was just missing a few mechanics. For that, I'll say A tier.
I agree with Sandman Joe here. A tier.
Oh, God, here comes the other Saints Row. What a disappointment of a reboot.
Fuck. I don't even want to talk about this. Starting a gang to pay your student debt? I didn't think they could have a worse story, but here we are.
Hey, I get it. But there were some decent things about the game. Let's not throw it right into F tier. It had decent combat mechanics. While janky, it wasn't terrible. I liked being able to roll tactically. The wingsuit was a nice touch without being overpowered like superpowers.
I can't believe you're defending this garbage. I may have to become a Republican.
On behalf of the Republicans, we humbly decline that offer. I see what Obama is saying, but it was still a huge tarnish on the franchise as a whole. The world was empty, and we were forced to do basically just side missions for the entire game. It felt like Mafia 3. I'm firm on F tier, and that's final.
Yeah, this is an F tier. Sorry, Barack, but I can't see why we should even give it a chance, especially with how half-assed the devs handled criticism and their lack of effort, like a certain orange man that we all know and love.
All right, I get it, fellas. We'll throw it into F tier. Now, time for the obvious S tier, Saints Row 2. Now, let me be clear. Saints Row 2 improved on a lot of what made Saints Row 1 great and added more features on top of that.
Easy S tier, and one of the most agreeable things you've ever said. The character creation was vastly improved, and you could be a smoking hot babe in this. Plus, who could forget the Sons of Sam D?
You always think with your little head before your big one, huh?
My little head is bigger than your regular one.
That's Cap.
You mean Mushroom Cap?
Gross. But yeah, they really fleshed out the Play Oz personality with the voice actor. We still had that sense of uniqueness from character creation, and the voice didn't derail from that at all, not to mention that the activities were fire, and the addition of Septic Avenger and Fight Club really was nice.
I loved how the map was a lot bigger, too, and we got way more vehicles, helicopters, planes, boats, motorcycles, and the customizations were insane. I remember slapping the pearlescent finish on every car I got.
And the soundtrack, amazing. Young Jeezy, Avenged Sevenfold, Hall & Oates, Paramore. With their budget, they chose excellent music for the game.
As much as I love arguing with you, Sleepy Joe, I'm glad that we could all set aside our differences and show our love for this game. S tier. And I know you'll all agree.
I agree. Love you, boys.
Love you, too.
All right, that's kind of gay. Let's reel it back.
We all know you feel the same, but we'll move on. Last up is Saints Row the Third.
Honestly, this was the dividing point between fans. Some say it's where the series went downhill. Some started playing here. I personally think that it was a great game, just not as good as 1 or 2. I'm saying it belongs in B tier.
I was one of those guys who started with this one. I have so much nostalgia for this game. I used to play this game with Barack when we were running the country together. Good times.
No wonder Obamacare was such a flop. Filthy casual, starting off with this game. How are you going to jump right into 3 without playing the first 2? You wouldn't even know what was going on in the story.
Like I said, gameplay is all that matters to me, and I loved the gameplay in Saints Row 3. I loved the combo meters on the screen, the stun gun, the giant dildo, Genki's challenges.
The Genki challenges were stupid, just another shooting gallery with a quirky setting.
Skill issue. They added much more than just regular gangster activities this time around.
like flying in the air in insurance fraud was regular. Joey, buddy, I'm going to just go ahead and finalize my B-tier vote.
I thought this game was fun, and it added a lot more features. The story did start to go downhill here, in my opinion. But I think it deserves an A tier because of the fun times you have in co-op.
I was going to say that this belongs in S tier, but I'm okay with settling at A.
Well, that's the last of it then. I know we've had a few conflicts here, but we got through it. I'm proud of you boys.
It was quite a journey, but we got it done. Now what?
We should probably get back to ranking the rest of the DQ Blizzards. I want the world to know my opinion on Mint Oreo.
No one wants to know your opinion, but I'm fine with that. I got to go now, though. I got to go play COD with my lawyer.
See you, Donald. Want to play Saints Row 3 again, Joe?
You bet. I want to make handsome Squidward as my character.
All right, boys. See you for the next video.